Hi, and welcome. I've always been very interested in how people learn. And something very interesting happened to me in the early 90s. I was getting onto a plane with one of my sons to go to a sports event in Cape Town. And there were a lot of people getting onto the plane, so the queue getting into the plane was very slow. And we stopped for a little while, and he was able to look into the cockpit. And he was staring and looking all over the place, very interested. I went and sat down, and he said, "Dad, how do those people see all of those instruments? You know, there's dozens of round dials, switches, levers, big levers, small levers, buttons. How do they know what to do? There's so much." I said, "Well, don't worry. The man sitting in the left-hand seat, the captain, before he got to be the captain, he would have sat in the right-hand seat for thousands of hours. And then he became the captain. And that's how he learned to do it." And I've always wondered how managers who are promoted for a variety of reasons. They've shown leadership skills. They've shown that they are hardworking individuals, that they get on with people, they get on with customers, and they're promoted. But very often what happens is that they arrive in that management position and they can't read the instruments of business. Now, by instruments of business, I mean the financial statements. Because managers have to look at these regularly. They have to make decisions based on the information that is in those financial statements. And if they can't find their way around and actually know how it's all put together, then there's a problem. Now, how do businesses solve that problem? Well, many of them send those managers to a business school. And at the business school, they attend a finance for non-financial managers program. And this could be over 2 or 3 days. And there they're exposed to all the information they need to know about financial statements. How to interpret them by calculating certain ratios and percentages. And it works for most of them. But in some cases, I used to notice that there are people that are distant when they sit in the classroom. They don't ask questions. They don't participate. If a lecturer were to ask a question, the person is all taken aback. Meantime, the lecturer is not trying to catch them out. He's trying to start a conversation, find out something interesting from them. But they're actually quite terrified in that type of environment. And yet I'm sure they're very competent in all the jobs they've been in until they were promoted. And as managers they are competent, but there's that missing thing, that ability to read the instruments of business. I also used to notice that when they were given syndicate work to do, they were given a case study, sent off for however long was necessary. And I often used to take a walk down the corridor outside of the various classrooms, and you'd see people in the syndicate room with a flip chart, table, markers, the works. And they'd be busy talking and drawing on the flip chart and doing calculations and discussing. And that was great. But there were always some people just sitting back, leaning back, and not participating at all. And I think the reason for not participating was they actually hadn't picked up on anything that was being discussed or required of them in that syndicate room, which is sad. And I thought, these people need special help. They're not stupid. But it's just that some people maybe have a problem with numbers. The numeracy skills are not what one would expect. That's quite common. So what do you do? Well, I recognized a need for a product. And the product was me. And I thought if those people could be helped on a one-on-one basis, they would start learning in an environment where they're not embarrassed to ask questions, they didn't feel under pressure, and so on. So I acquired a copy of a directory. It was about that thick. And I got somebody to capture, because that directory had the names of all the listed companies in South Africa. Of course, there were a lot more then than there are now in 2020, but that's beside the point. The person captured the name of the managing director, as they were called in those days, the name of the company, the address, etc., all the particulars they needed. And then one was able to say, "Dear Mr. whatever the name." And so I had written a sales letter, and it was printed through the mail merge process. And when they came out, I signed, because it's printed in black ink, obviously, but I signed each one, remember this, with a blue pen. So it looked like a personal letter. Well, it was, in a way. And they went off. I didn't bulk post them to save a bit of money, because it doesn't look good. It looks like junk mail. So I got somebody to sit down and put stamps on all these letters. I think there were about 700 of them. And off they went. Now, I got a response within about a week. And it was from a large group of companies, somebody in the head office of that group of companies, who wanted me to speak to the managing director of one of their medium-sized subsidiaries. So I contacted this person, and he said, "Oh yeah, I've been waiting to hear from you." And I told him what I would be doing. I said, because he asked, I said, "Well, I want your time, full time, for 2 days. And we will do my standard finance for non-financial managers workshop over those 2 days." I said, "When are you available?" He said, "How about this weekend?" I said, "Fine." And so we booked a small seminar room at a hotel, and I took him through this step by step by step, doing the exercises, having time to think about some small case studies and tell me what he thought. And it was an absolute pleasure with this gentleman, because he was an engineer. And engineers are very good at working with numbers. It's just they have to be, through their training, through their varsity years, etc. And of course, if they're practicing engineers, they're even better. But he was the managing director of a company that wasn't in engineering. Excuse me. So we did that. And I'd also told him that I would meet with him regularly to discuss new questions that he had. Maybe something had cropped up at work related to finance, and he wanted assistance with that. And the first meeting that I went to with him was, he said, "Now, it's that time of the month. We have a board meeting coming up, and here's my set of management accounts." So it was in the folder was about that thick too. I thought, okay. He said, "Can you go over these and then tell me what you think about what's in here?" I said, "Okay." He said, "You should really sign a non-disclosure agreement." I said, "If you want me to." He said, No, it'll be fine." So I took it home, spent quite a few hours that evening on going through it page by page by page, doing some calculations on my own. And when I returned it to him the next day, it was bristling with post-it notes where I'd written my questions. I didn't want to write on his own paperwork because somebody might see it and think, oh, it's not his handwriting. Anyway, it was bristling with post-it notes. And he phoned me afterwards. He said, that was very helpful. I said, fine. A month later, he said, Mal, it's that time again. So, well, he's paying for my time, so let's go. He gave me the management accounts. I went through them again, took them back, and he was happy. After the third month of this process, he asked me to come and see him. I went to see him. He said, I want to thank you for everything you've done. He said, these guys, referring to his fellow directors, these guys don't know where I'm getting these questions. I've got them under the whip now. I know what questions to ask, and I know what the answers should be. And I was delighted, and also delighted that he referred me to a number of people that he knew out there in industry who I eventually took through the same process. Unfortunately now, with the various problems we have with the virus that's haunting us, it's impossible to have these face-to-face conversations, time spent in close quarters, because I can't think of anything worse than sitting with a mask on for 2 days in a room with somebody. I don't think they'd enjoy it either. But it's a service that I still provide. It's just that this year has been difficult to meet with people on a one-to-one basis. And so let's hope that this all moves beyond us now, and that we are then free to meet and travel freely, because some of these coaching sessions have had to take place in cities quite a distance from me, down at the coast. I'm up here on the Highveld. But let's hope that that process can help, because it's a process that can really help a person that's got all those skills that he needs or she needs, leadership skills, industry knowledge, the ability to get on with people, the emotional intelligence that you need, all of those good things, having added a knowledge of finance, of how to read the financial instruments, can help them really do a much better job when it comes to decisions that are discussed that are going to affect financial aspects of the business. So it's very important. If you're interested, please drop a comment in the comment section below. And if you want me to contact me, you will just let me know, and I'll be happy to do that. It's very difficult. It's been tried over Google Teams, Zoom. They're really not suitable for this kind of process. Trust me on that, because you're not looking at the same pieces of paper simultaneously, and so it's not good. Face to face, person to person really works. Thanks for watching.